Testing one, one, two, three. One, two, three. Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brothers and sisters. You're listening to Newcastle Fast FM um, with myself, Richard Coupland, and today's show is Darkness from Light, from Darkness to Light. It's going to be a weekly show. We're going to be here every single day, Monday to Friday, 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock. And it's a show that I've done a number of years, but this year is a bit different, as I mentioned in the original show. We're going to be expanding the topics. We're going to be expanding the guests outside of just new Muslim support, just outside of reverts and converts. So we are going to be having a number of guests joining us that are converts. We are going to be having a number of guests joining us to talk about dawah and different topics. So alhamdulillah, this week, from tomorrow, Wednesday, we'll be joined by Brother Imran Hussein from Aira. I'm going to be talking about a number of different interesting topics there. On Thursday, inshallah, we're going to be joined by a revert brother, a convert brother, Brother Alex, who's going to be joining us on Thursday's show, hopefully. We'll learn a bit more about his story, his journey, and discuss various different topics with him. And then this Friday, we're going to be having another show with myself and my wife, talking about a number of topics, so do tune in. And next week, and in the weeks going on forwards, we're going to have other guests, such as Brother Kin, other revert brothers, and other brothers related to spreading Islam. They're going to be coming on, maybe talking about different topics, maybe talking about atheism, talking about Christianity. So hopefully it'll be beneficial shows, so do tune in. But today, what I really wanted to talk about was sort of continuing on from yesterday. Yesterday, I told a bit about my journey, a bit about my story of how I accepted Islam, how I became Muslim, from growing up being raised Christian to then becoming an atheist, someone who didn't really follow any religion or believe in God, to then somebody who accepted Islam and became a Muslim. So yesterday's show, you can go back and check it out. We were talking about that and my journey and some things that I researched and read about. What we're going to be talking about today is a bit about after I became Muslim and some of the things that I faced, some of the challenges that I faced. And we want to talk about really how does somebody start practicing the religion. Maybe somebody accepts Islam, maybe somebody is born Muslim but they want to start practicing the religion. What advice would I give to that person? So we left off yesterday. Alhamdulillah, accepted Islam in Middlesbrough, outside the mosque in Middlesbrough, with a number of brothers from Middlesbrough and two brothers who are part of an organization on the screen right now called IDC. So, I took the Shahada, I became Muslim. But I remember distinctly, the brothers, they took me home, they drove me home, and going home and thinking, like, whoa, like, what have I done? Was this the right decision? And I think this is key, that one of the most important times that we really need to reach out and help converts and those new to religion is in the first day or in the first week or in those early stages, because there is a time where you're double questioning yourself. You're thinking, did I make the right decision? Was this the right thing to do? And if the people out there around you telling you, okay, this is the right decision, confirming what you know, teaching you some of the basics, helping you progress, it's very much the case that you're going to feel overwhelmed and you're going to feel to question your decision, especially when maybe issues start arising with how you have to change your lifestyle and how you're going to have to interact with your family and with your friends, and maybe some arguments or some debates that you may end up having with them. So I think it's very important that we support them in those early stages. And I think what really helped me was, straight away within a few days, within a week, I traveled to Middlesbrough and I would, meet some of those brothers and they would teach me some of the basics. I remember, it wasn't something very, amazing, like, attending a big conference. It was something very simple. Every single Saturday, one day in the week, I would simply travel to Middlesbrough, visit the mosque there, join in with the prayer. I didn't fully know how to do what to say and what to do the actions, but I would join in. Then after the prayer, some of the brothers would do a short lesson on tahara, on purity, simple, not complex, just the basics. And after that, maybe we'd do some of the Arabic alphabet, trying to learn alif, trying to learn ba, trying to learn ta. We do a bit about the actions of the prayer, and then after that, we'd go get some food. And even though for those brothers, maybe it was a couple of hours out of their Saturday in between Dhuhr and Asr, but I know for me it meant so much, and it really did help me grow. And it's fun. I think back to times then where I look at the Arabic alphabet and I had no idea what this was saying. I look back then where I couldn't pronounce any of the words at all and had no idea what any of this was. But it was that step by step, that weekly progression, attending a weekly class, attending something simple, that really allowed me to become confident in the foundations. And I think there's many brothers that went out their way to help me. So I know many brothers, they would sponsor for me, they would pay for me to go on paid courses, paid weekend courses. They'd sponsor it, they'd hook me up, they'd sort it out, in which I would go learn about the names of Allah. I would go learn about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his life and his message. And I remember those weekend courses, those day courses, those lessons were huge for me. Even though for them it wasn't something big, but I know for myself it was something huge. And that's the point is, again, when you're helping someone who's a convert, someone who's a revert, it doesn't have to be something massive that you do. Many times, brothers, maybe they didn't have huge knowledge, but they would always invite me to their house for food, or they would always try and take me to go to the night prayers in Ramadan, or they would try and involve me in some gathering, at least that they're doing, or even just message me, call me, see what's going on. And that really, really helped, because the reality is for many brothers and many sisters, it's within that first early months in which they fully decided they're going to stay or they're going to leave because of maybe some issues they have with their family. Because that's the point. Imagine someone in your family, they come home and they tell you that they've left Islam and they're following a different religion. Imagine your response, imagine your shock. Similarly, from our family, my family, and other convert families, it's similar. You come home and you tell them that you're following a different religion, something that necessarily they think is very negative. They have negative views about it. It can be very worrying for them. It can be very maybe shocking for them. So I think it can lead to often to many arguments, a lot of discussions and debates, and maybe things at home can get quite difficult. And without the brothers around you supporting you, without brothers and sisters with that community, it can get quite hard. But the topic I want to sort of highlight is something that was for myself. I wish I really learned earlier. Alhamdulillah, I became Muslim. I started learning the basics, but I started delving into so many different topics, delving into issues in which even major scholars, they have disagreements and discussions. So I remember I remember specifically being at sixth form and using the sixth form printer to print out this entire book, Usul al-Hadith by Bilal Phillips. It's a book, 215 pages, 220. Maybe I've been Muslim a couple of weeks, a month, and obviously I didn't have money at the time to buy this, so I was out there printing it out on the school paper, the school printer, printing it out, taking it home, all these printouts, and beginning to read this. And it was good. I obviously was positive that I had the zeal and the encouragement to learn a lot of the basics. But again, I was touching up on topics that were way above my level, learning about Usul al-Hadith, Usul al-Tafsir, the sciences of tafsir, learning about complex fiqh issues, um, issues of issues that Muslims are debating amongst themselves, maybe complex theological issues. Yeah, I didn't know how to pray properly. I didn't know how to recite Al-Fatiha properly, or to do the tashahhud, or even know the basics of wudu and prayer. But I was learning about these really high important issues. So I think it's important that somebody who's going to newly practice the religion, or somebody who's accepted Islam, that they really focus on the foundations. And the foundations are those 5 pillars. As the Prophet ﷺ, he said in an authentic narration that Imam Bukhari rahimahullah narrated, he said that Islam is built upon 5. The first is the Shahada, the testimony of faith, that you bear witness that there is none worthy of worship except Allah, and that the Prophet Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. The second pillar is the prayer, the salah, the 5 daily prayers. The third pillar is the zakah, the charity. The fourth pillar is fasting the month of Ramadan, which we're doing right now. And the fifth pillar is the Hajj. Now, these are five pillars and 5 things. And the reason why they're called pillars or foundations is because I want you to imagine a building, and you're going to construct a building. If you don't get the pillars, if you don't get those foundations of the building correct, anything you try and build on top is just going to collapse eventually. If you build a house on foundations that are not solid, eventually it will collapse. Even maybe it'll stand for some time, but maybe eventually it will collapse. And that's the point, that if somebody doesn't get these 5 pillars solid and solidified in their life, it's going to be very difficult to build upon it. And let me explain. If somebody maybe starts practicing Islam a lot, reading many different topics, praying every salah in the masjid, dealing with many, learning many things, and they look maybe very, very righteous and pious, but then they're hit with a calamity. Maybe their mother passes away, or maybe somebody close to them passes away, or maybe they lose their job, and they're hit with this calamity. They may start questioning, why is this happening to me? Why did Allah allow this? I became Muslim. I left my previous life. I'm doing all these good deeds. Why is this happening to me? But if somebody has the first pillar, the testimony of faith, solid in their life, and they understand what does it mean to worship Allah alone, and to really know who Allah is, and to know why we're here in this life, he's going to be able to deal with those issues. But if he doesn't, maybe his faith will be affected, and maybe his faith will go down. Similarly, if somebody doesn't learn how to do the prayer properly, they're not going to maybe feel confident in their religion. Maybe they're traveling, maybe they're out and about, and they don't feel confident praying on their own. Or maybe they're with different brothers, and the brothers say, okay, do you want to lead the prayer? Do you want to give the iqamah? And they don't know how to do it. They're going to feel not confident in their religion, which again is going to affect their progress. But if somebody spent the time to learn those foundations, and they're praying every single day, they're focusing their entire life around Allah, around the salah, and really learning what does it mean, and connecting with the words of the Quran, he's going to have a much higher level of faith. Because every single day, 5 times a day, he's coming back to Allah and he's connecting with Allah. Compared with maybe somebody who doesn't pray or doesn't know how to pray. And likewise with the rest of the pillars, somebody does these bare necessities, it's going to, inshallah, enter them into paradise. So that's something I want to talk about, is to begin with, is where do you begin as a new Muslim? Often when we accept Islam or we start to practice the religion, people often give us various different books, different articles, they send us lectures. I know myself, I got given, so many different books and so many different things on various different topics. Someone gives you, okay, you need to learn about Aqidah, you need to learn about belief. Someone's saying, no, you need to learn the Salah. Someone's saying, no, you need to learn fiqh. Another person saying, okay, no, you need to change your name. Another person saying, okay, if you started looking to get married yet. Another person saying, if you started wearing hijab, if you started wearing a thobe. All these people are bombarding you with all these different topics. And it can get quite confusing. And, you're sort of left lost about, where do I begin in my journey? Do I start with the prayer? Do I start learning fiqh? Do I need to learn Aqidah first? Do I learn tafsir, understanding the Quran? Where do I begin? And the reality is that this question wasn't left unanswered by Allah. Allah told us the methodology, and the Prophet ﷺ told us the methodology of how to really practice Islam and how to learn Islam. Allah says in the Quran that, and if you disagree over anything, refer it to Allah and His Messenger. If you should believe in Allah and the last day, that is the best way, and that is the best result. So in this verse of the Quran, we're told that, if you disagree over anything, meaning if people are disagreeing over a topic, what we should do is to ultimately refer it back to Allah, meaning the Quran, the book of Allah, and referred back to the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, referred back to his sunnah, his hadith, in order to know what's the right way to do. So when we look in some of the narrations of the Prophet, peace be upon him, we learn exactly where do I begin, what topic do I begin with, and where do I start. And there's a narration in which Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah, he narrates in his Sahih, and Imam Muslim rahimahullah, he narrates in his Sahih, that Mu'adh radiallahu anhu said that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace be upon him, he sent me as a governor to Yemen. And at the time when I was about to depart, he instructed me with the following. He said to him that you are going to the people of the book, Ahl al-Kitab, meaning the Jews and the Christians. And he said, first invite them to testify that there is none worthy of worship except Allah, and that I am the messenger of Allah. And if they accept this, then tell them that Allah has enjoined upon them 5 daily prayers during the day and the night. And if they accept this, then tell them that Allah has made the payment of zakah obligatory upon them. In another narration, which Imam Bukhari reports, Ibn Abbas narrates that when the Prophet sent Mu'adh to Yemen, he said to him that you are going to a nation from the people of the book, so let the first thing you call them to be to the Tawheed, to the oneness of Allah. If they learn that and they understand that, then tell them that Allah has enjoined upon them 5 daily prayers to be offered in 1 day and 1 night. So what we learn in these narrations is that when Mu'adh ibn Jabal, when the Prophet sent him to Yemen, in order to tell the people about Islam, in order to convey the message of the religion, the first thing the Prophet told him to tell them about wasn't fasting Ramadan, wasn't complex fiqh, wasn't the science of hadith or marriage or anything like this. The first thing was to call them to the oneness of Allah, to call them to the Shahada. And this is how we should really start our study of Islam. We should first truly understand what is the first pillar, because they say that the first pillar is the most important and the rest are built upon it. Somebody says that they're Muslim, they say that they believe in Allah, they believe that He should be worshipped alone, they believe in the Prophet and the messengers, but do they truly know what does that mean? Do they truly understand what's encapsulated in the Shahada? And this is where somebody should start, and they should really focus about learning about the oneness of Allah. And what's really important about that is because the concept of monotheism in Islam is very unique and different to other religions. It's different to Judaism, it's different to Christianity, it's different to all the other polytheistic religions and other monotheistic religions. And somebody really needs to truly understand this, as it's the knowledge of Allah. And the scholar said that the knowledge of Allah is the best knowledge that you can learn. The best knowledge about your creator, the one who created you and everything that exists. That's the best knowledge that you can really learn about and gain about. And this is why Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah, when he brought this narration, he put it in his book called Kitab al-Tawheed, the book of the oneness of Allah. In his collection of hadith, he decided to put different books. The book of Salah, the book of how did revelation begin, the book of charity, etc. And one of the books that he decided to write was the book on the oneness of Allah, the book of Tawheed, because it has such an important status. And then he put it under the chapter, the Prophet inviting his followers to the Tawheed of Allah. Because ultimately this knowledge of the oneness of Allah, this knowledge of Tawheed, is the reason why Allah sent prophets and messengers to mankind. It's the reason why throughout every single generation and to every single nation, a prophet and messenger was sent to them, calling them to worship Allah. As it says in the Quran, in the 16th chapter, in the 36th verse, and we certainly sent into every nation a messenger, saying, worship Allah and avoid the Taghut, avoid the false deities, avoid anything that is worshipped besides Allah. And this is the point, that worshipping Allah is the purpose of our creation, as it says in the Quran, and I did not create the jinn and the mankind except to worship me alone. So that's the purpose of creation, is to worship Allah. So if somebody's new to the religion, somebody's accepted Islam, alhamdulillah, it's beneficial to learn about many other topics. And if you have that encouragement to do so, it's good, and I encourage you to do so. But the important thing is that we really need to start learning about Tawheed, learning about the oneness of Allah, studying the Shahada. And once we've understood this, we then go back to the hadith of Mu'adh. The Prophet said that once they've accepted and they understand this, then teach them the Salah, and then teach them the Zakah, then teach them fasting Ramadan, then teach them Hajj. So we begin with, okay, understanding the monotheism, and we should try and do this immediately. And then immediately afterwards, we should try and learn the Salah. We should try and learn the prayer. And why it's important to ultimately know about Tawheed and the oneness of Allah is because ultimately in the hereafter, that's what's going to ultimately save a person from the hellfire. Because we know that Muslims who do sins, they will go to hellfire for a certain amount of time in order to be punished. But we know in the narration that the Prophet ﷺ will intercede for the people of hellfire, and he will take out the people from the people of hellfire one who even has a mustard or an atom's weight of faith, an atom's weight of Tawheed in their heart. So somebody who ultimately had Tawheed, believed in Allah, worshipped Allah alone, didn't worship any of the deities, didn't worship any prophets and messengers. In the hereafter, ultimately they will go to paradise. However, they may go to be punished for their sins. So even if a person did a lot of salah, he did a lot of charity, he did a lot of the other acts of Islam, but he didn't have monotheism, he didn't worship Allah alone, it's not going to help him in the hereafter. As the Prophet ﷺ said, that whoever says La ilaha illallah, the Shahada, sincerely from their heart, he will enter paradise. Meaning if somebody sincerely believes in this, they will ultimately go to paradise. So we start with the monotheism, and there are some good books to start off with. I know myself a good key read is the following book. It's called The Fundamentals of Tawheed by Bilal Phillips. It's a good read. And what is good about this book is many of the books are written in Arabic and then they're translated into English, which is beneficial. But this one was written in English for an English audience. So the author, it's an easy read. The author, he gives many examples from our culture, and as well he references a lot of other religions, but references books about their texts, so he gets an accurate representation about what they believe and what they teach. So it's very easy to read, to understand, okay, where did other religions go wrong? Where did certain superstitions go wrong? Can we have charms? Can we have amulets? What about horoscopes? All these different things are going to be discussed in this book. So I'd recommend someone to begin with that. And there are many, many other beneficial books out there. And obviously there are a number of different lectures online. But what somebody really needs to sort of learn and understand is what is Tawheed? And Tawheed is to ultimately to worship Allah alone. And that the scholars, they divided Tawheed into different categories in order to make it easier for us to understand. So they don't. Some of them divided it up into the oneness of Allah's lordship, which is to believe that Allah is the Lord of everything. He created the universe. He created all that exists. He sustains everything. He has knowledge of everything, etc. To believe that, meaning that we can't believe that, for example, Jesus is the creator of the heavens and the earth, or we can't believe that another person, God, entity, concept is the creator of the heavens and the earth. The second category they often divide it into was oneness in Allah's names and attributes, meaning to believe that Allah has names and attributes that are unique to himself, which he named himself with, and not to distort the meaning of these names, not to compare Allah to the creation, and as well not to give these names to creation. So for example, we wouldn't say that a certain prophet is the all-seeing or the knower of everything, or we wouldn't attribute to a stone or a tree or a statue that it's the creator of everything or that it's the most merciful. These are names and attributes that are specific to God. And if you look in Christianity and other religions, you can see where they made mistakes. And they gave some of these attributes to Jesus, maybe to Mary, to different prophets, to different messengers. And the third category, the third section, which is the most important one, is oneness in his worship, meaning that we only worship Allah alone. We don't direct any form of worship, whether it's prayer, salah, whether it's dua, supplication, whether it's sacrifice, whether it's, love, ultimate hope, ultimate reliance, tawakkul, on any other deity besides Allah. We don't rely upon any prophet and messenger. We don't pray to any prophet or messenger. We don't pray to the angels. Something which, if you look in Christianity and Catholicism, is where they made mistakes. They started praying to Jesus. They started praying to Jesus' mother Mary. They started praying to the angel Gabriel, the angel Michael. They started praying to saints, Peter, Paul, etc. They started asking these saints to do things for them and to help them. This is something that is incorrect and something that we shouldn't do. Rather, the whole point of Islam, the whole point of the messengers being sent, was for us to solely worship Allah alone and have that one-on-one connection with Him, and really get that sweetness of faith. When you do that, you get that sweetness of faith, and you don't commit polytheism, which is shirk, which is the opposite of monotheism. So that's the key place to start. Start with monotheism, the oneness of Allah. Then the next key thing that somebody really needs to learn as a new Muslim or someone newly practicing the religion is the salah, is the prayer. And the ultimate reason is because the prayer is something that's obligatory that every single person has to do. 5 daily prayers throughout the day. And it's something that we're told by the Prophet ﷺ in an authentic narration that on the day of judgment, this is going to be one of the first things that we're going to be questioned about. And if the salah is good, then the rest of the judgment will be good. And as well, the Prophet ﷺ, he said in different narrations that the difference between us and them, meaning the difference between us and the non-Muslims or the disbelievers, is the salah. And whoever abandons it has committed disbelief. Meaning that it's a huge sin and it's a huge thing to abandon the prayer. So this is something that's important. And the reason is because it's going to be your connection with Allah. It's your daily spiritual connection throughout your day and throughout your life. Connecting with Allah, reciting the Quran, reciting dua, supplications. And your chance to sort of forget about everything in the world. Forget about all the stress and worries of work, stress and money worries, maybe family disputes, maybe illnesses. To put all that to the side and to really connect with Allah and to concentrate on Allah and the salah, rather than all these other worries in the world. So the salah is something that's important, but it can be difficult to learn. So my advice with the prayer is take it easy. Myself, when I first learned the prayer, I remember trying to learn it all in one day. So I pages and pages, learn Al-Fatiha, learn this dua, trying to learn it all, cram it all in one day. But then by the next day, I'd forgot it all immediately because I just crammed it in. I didn't fully understand it. So I think for each person, they've got to look at how do they learn and take it step by step. Maybe it's learning, a few verses of Al-Fatiha a day, maybe a few of the actions a day. And I think a key advice is to get a teacher. When you get a teacher, everything becomes much easier. Because if you're on your own, obviously you could be trying to do stuff, but you may do it wrong. You may pronounce something wrong. I know myself, when I try to learn things from books, I was given many, many different books. Some of them they had no pictures. It was just text. Some of them had pictures, but the pictures were really bad quality. I didn't understand what they were saying. Others, I had pictures that were good, but it was just Arabic and English, and I couldn't read Arabic, and I can't read Arabic, so how am I going to understand what it's saying? Some of it had the transliteration, but it was really badly done. So when I tried to learn it, it was all incorrect. So the key thing is, first of all, is try and get a teacher. That's a person who can correct you on any mistakes. And I know even with some of the people that I've taught is they've learned some things in their own time, and when they come to me, I realize, oh no, that's a mistake, and I understand why I did that, but this is what you're meant to do. And a teacher always makes things easier. He can correct your pronunciation. you can correct your actions. And again, the same thing I would advise is to get a good book. A good book, there is one called My Prayer Guide. And what I really like about this book is it's very, very simple. Um, very, very simple. It's got good quality pictures. It's got good quality English, explains the concepts well. The transliteration is easy to read. The Arabic is clear, has the English meanings and a good translation for you to understand what you're saying. So that's the point when you're learning the Arabic, you really want to understand what you're saying. So I'll share that in the chat, but that was it's a very beneficial book. But I'd recommend to start with that. And then you go on likewise. So then you learn about fasting Ramadan, read some books, attend a short course. Then you learn about the charity, the zakah, how to do that, when do I have to do it, etc. Then you learn about Hajj. Maybe just learn the basics about Hajj. Maybe you don't need to learn the full in-depth rituals until you eventually go. We need to learn, for example, what it is, the history, the story behind it, some of the basic things you do. When does it become obligatory to do it? How long does it take, and things like that. And then you progress like that. Then after that, you're gonna delve into other topics, learn more about beliefs, learn more about the names and attributes of Allah. What do we believe about the hereafter? What do we believe about the jinn? What do we believe about angels? And expand and grow like that. And when somebody does that, they'll grow in their faith in a steadied way, rather than maybe delving into loads of different sporadic topics, learning a bit here, learning a bit there. And then when they look back at themselves after a few years, they realize they haven't really learned anything. They haven't really grounded themselves in anything. They know lots of various parts of knowledge, but they're still not confident in the prayer. They're still not confident in understanding the Islamic belief. So again, I think it's taking it step by step. And with each topic you take, try and attend a class on it. Try and watch maybe some extra lectures on the internet. And I think as well, try and get a small, simple book on that topic. So, for example, if you wanted to learn about the basics of the religion, a good beneficial book is The Essential Lessons for Every Muslim by Sheikh bin Baz, recent scholar who passed away, I believe, in 1999. He wrote this short book, and it's divided up into a number of different lessons. 18 lessons. And you could maybe take a lesson a week, starting off with some basic things about belief, then about the prayer, then about fasting. And by the end of it, you should generally have the essential things that every single Muslim needs to believe. There are some explanations in English. This one by Muhammad bin Ali bin Ibrahim al-Faj. It's quite a good one. And this one I would recommend immensely is it's explained by Sheikh Abdul Razak al-Abbad, who is a teacher in Masjid al-Nabawi, the Prophet's Mosque, and also a teacher in the Medina University. And one of the main scholars alive today. He's got an explanation that's available in English. And there are a number of Western teachers that have taught this book, but it's a good book. The most important lessons for every Muslim, or the essential lessons for every Muslim. If you went through that, you did every single lesson, you'd know the basics about everything which you need to believe as a Muslim. And then from then, I would really, once you learn those basics, I think the key is to something that I think many of us, even myself, have not fully done. And it's very sad that we haven't done it, myself and many other brothers. And the situation is we haven't really concentrated on Arabic. The reality is that this religion, the Quran, was revealed in Arabic. It's the language of the Quran. It's the language of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Not to mean that Islam is only for Arabs, or you need to know Arabic to understand Islam. You don't, of course you don't. In order to truly get a higher level in the religion, and I think a higher spiritual sense, is that focusing on Arabic is key. Learning how to, for example, read the Arabic alphabet in order to read the Quran, that is going to hugely spiritually help you. Imagine you're studying the prayer, or imagine you're just hearing the Quran on the radio on your phone. and you're following along and you know every single word that's being said. You don't need to go to Sahih International. You don't need to go to Yusuf Ali translation or Muslim Khan. You just know exactly what's being said without having to think. You know what's being said. Imagine that. The spiritual effects and how much it would benefit you would be immense. And I think that's something that many of us forget, is to concentrate on Arabic. Because through Arabic, you can abandon a lot of the English translations, which maybe have mistakes, which maybe are a particular person's interpretation of something, and you can go straight to the Quran. You can go straight to the Hadith, you can go straight to the Fatawa and learn and read and learn and straight to the Arabic speaking scholars. So my encouragement is, after somebody's learned the basics, they've learned the prayer, they've learned some surahs from the Quran, is to really concentrate on those two things. One is learning Arabic, and two is learning the Quran. If you look at the way that the scholars of the past, they learned the religion, in the early days, they would mainly focus on learning Arabic and then learning the Quran. If they knew Arabic, they would learn more about grammar and rhetoric and morphology and memorization of the Quran, meaning that when they all reached adolescence, 20, 18, 15, 12, they were all hafid of the Quran, they knew the Quran, and it was easy for them to memorize. So that's something to concentrate on. And if somebody's going to learn Arabic, there's a number of different courses out there. One course which is well known is the Medina Islamic University Arabic course. It's made up of a number of different books. You can get PDFs online, you can buy physical copies. And there are a number of explanations on YouTube, or maybe you can find a teacher in your locality who could teach you the book. There's one course available, which is what was a summarized version of what's taught at the Medina University in their 2-year curriculum in the first 2 years that you go. You could study this. There's another one called Arabic Between Your Two Hands, Baini Yadayk. That's very good for learning, I think, as well, modern Arabic, a lot of vocabulary, a lot of words. And there are a number of Arabic courses online. And I think as well, look in your local areas for Arabic courses. But again, it needs consistency and it needs dedication. It's very unrealistic to think that I'm going to attend a lesson once a week or once every 2 weeks and immediately know Arabic. Rather, it's going to be in your own time, every single day, learning new words. So, for example, taking 5 words, writing it on a piece of paper, throughout the day, looking at the words on your phone, on a piece of paper, learning the words. Daily, sitting down and going through a lesson, sitting down and learning some grammar rules. Maybe in the masjid, at the mosque, with other people over WhatsApp, trying to speak Arabic with people, practicing with them, sitting and practice to write. I think it's like being a baby. When a baby learns that whatever language it is, they start with learning words and speaking random bits, and then they build upon it. So similarly, it's going to be step by step. But the key things that consistency. What happens with myself, and is still happening now, is I'll maybe start doing Arabic for a month or two, solely trying to learn words, trying to go through lessons, and then life gets too busy, something comes up, and then I leave it for a good few months. Meaning that when I come back, I'm back to the same stage because I forgot a lot of it. So that's the point, is trying to make it regular in your life. And I think the next thing is that someone should focus on is, as I mentioned, learning the Quran, how to recite the Quran, how to memorize it, and at least learn a good chunk from the Quran, because that's going to help you in your prayers, it's going to help you in your knowledge. And learning the meanings of what you're really learning and reciting is key, because this is the book of Allah. This is the book that was sent to us by the creator of the heavens and the earth, with guidelines on how to live our lives and guidelines on what we need to do. And if we don't read it, we don't study it, we don't learn it, how can we really claim to be people of the Quran or claim to be people who follow it if we don't fully know what it teaches? So I think those are some key advices that I'd give. Learn the basics of the 5 pillars, feel confident, then try and learn Arabic. And when you just learn the basics, it's just alphabet. So I know myself, I remember going with one brother every Saturday. We'd go through the letters, he'd show me what they were, I'd repeat after him. then he'd switch up the letters and make me point at them and make me try and say them. I remember back then it was being so hard and so difficult. Whereas now when I see Arabic, it seems normal to me. But back then it was very strange. And I know I myself, I would go on YouTube, type in Arabic alphabet, and just watch some videos of somebody reciting alif, ba, ta, and I'd repeat after them. When they mix it up, I try and guess what it's going to be before they say it, and then I'd learn how to join the letters together and how to say them when they're joined, and learn how to say the harakat, the tashkil, how to say the vowels on the words, and it was step by step, and that's the key thing. It takes step by step. But one thing that did help me a lot was I used to listen to the Quran a lot, maybe hours a day, 2 hours a day or more, listening to the Quran. I didn't necessarily know what was being said, but on the way to college, sixth form, which for me was like an hour journey, or I'd listen to the Quran. On the way back from that, I'd be listening to the Quran, and it helped me become familiar with the way the language sounds and the way the language works and the way that words are pronounced. And it did help when you come to the Quran, you begin to realize some of the rules automatically because you've heard it so much. So one good thing is to try and listen to the Quran more often. It will help you with some of the words and help you understand how to say certain things. So that's what my advice would be, to learn the basics. I think the next key thing for me when I became Muslim and issues that I faced was lack of spirituality. I became Muslim because of all these logical reasons and rationale, but I didn't truly have that spirituality. And the ultimate reason is because I didn't, again, learn those basics. I didn't learn the prayer, I didn't learn things. And it was only when I went on a retreat held by Aira, in which I went away from everything, and I spent 4 days, in a hotel with, regular daily lessons, regular workshops on the prayer. It was only then that I truly learned how to do the prayer properly, and learned why we pray, and learned the sweetness of prayer, and learned the basics. And I remember sitting in the lessons, maybe things that were born Muslims they knew, but for me being amazed, learning about different narrations on the Prophet, on how he spoke about treating animals and how he spoke about not wasting water, and learning about monotheism and Tawheed and all these things, and how to deal with the problem of evil, and all these things really gave me answers to everything. So I think, again, focusing on how to do the prayer properly and the basics really helps you spiritually. And I think the next thing often I faced in my journey was issues maybe with my family. I didn't really tell anyone in my family or many friends that I became Muslim for maybe about 6 months. So for about 6 months, I was hidden Muslim, closet Muslim. But I attended, again, one of those weekend courses that I mentioned about the life of the Prophet and his character and who he was as a person. And I realized, okay, if I'm not sharing this with those around me, then I'm really doing a disservice to them. Because when I really learned about his character and who he was, I realized I need to share this message. So I told my sisters and my brother. I told them about I become Muslim and this, and they were okay with it. Each of them followed. Some are Christian, one's atheist, etc. They had different, belief systems, so they were cool with it. But I didn't tell my dad until I told him maybe 3 months afterwards. And when I told him, that's when a lot of issues began, a lot of arguments, a lot of disagreements. And he didn't fully understand why I did it, what I did. It led to a lot of arguments, a lot of fighting. And things were quite tough and things were quite hard. I remember thinking at times, why is this happening? Why am I going through these fighting and these arguments? But I think my key advice is again to be patient, realize that this is a test of how you're going to react. Are you going to react harshly? Are you going to react negatively? Or are you going to react in a positive manner? And my advice would be to those that are maybe having issues with their families is an advice that I took for myself from the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam, the story of Abraham in the Quran. In Surah Maryam, I believe, or Taha, not sure, one of the two, it speaks about how Abraham was calling his father to Islam. and he's telling him about Islam. He's calling to him, and his father gets to the point where he says to him that if you do not desist, then verily I will stone you. I'm going to stone you to death. And if you look at the story, like I always reflect it, I'm trying to tell my dad, trying to have discussions. He's come back harshly, but he's never come to the point that he's threatened to kill me or he's trying to stone me to death or do anything like this. But in Abraham's situation, that's what his father threatened him with. But if you look at Ibrahim alayhi salam's response, it always amazes me. And he responded with three things. And I'll pull up the verses now and I'll read what was said. Ibrahim said to his father, "Peace be upon you. I will ask forgiveness for you of my Lord. Indeed, he is ever gracious to me." Myself, I took three things from this. Abraham responds with salam. He responds with peace. I mean that when there's an argument, when there's a lot of it's getting quite fierce, don't respond with harshness. Don't respond with negative. Respond with kindness. Respond with peace. Respond with calmness. And that's really going to have an effect upon your family when they see that how you're reacting to the situation and how you act. It's really going to have effect. So you respond calmly, not harshly, not with fighting back, shouting back. You don't understand this, you don't understand that. Respond with calmness and kindness. And the second thing Ibrahim says, he says, "I will ask forgiveness for you of my Lord." And the second thing I took there was dua, was realizing that you need to ask Allah to help you in the situation. Issues with your family, issues with friends, issues in life, you need to ask Allah to make it easy. Because ultimately, myself, I wasn't Muslim. I remember times when I thought horrible things about Islam, but Allah changed my heart. Similarly, by asking Allah, He can change the heart of your family. The Prophet ﷺ, he said in an authentic narration that the hearts of the people are between the two fingers of the most merciful. He turns them whichever way He wills. Meaning that Allah can change the situation of your friends and your family and make them closer to Islam if you sincerely ask Him to do that. And the third thing was, Ibrahim says, "Indeed, He is ever gracious to me." I think that was the point is, even if things don't get easy, even if there still is arguments, even if your family don't accept and things are harsh, still be grateful to Allah that He guided you and grateful to Allah that He made you Muslim when He couldn't have. You could have been on your old path, you could have followed something else. But you learn about Islam, you learn about the religion, and Allah was graceful to you to do that. That's something to be tremendously grateful for. So that is what really helped me, because with your family, the key thing's character. I know sometimes if you try and go directly tell them, friends and family, they don't want to know. It's going to cause arguments. But if they see Islam in your character, they see Islam in how you work and how you act. You do more charity. You're kinder. You're helping people out. If they see it within you, then that's when they're going to see real changes. So again, I think respond with kindness in your character is going to have a huge effect. So that's some of the advices I would give. Is someone new to the religion, someone who's accepted Islam, focus on the basics. Learn about Tawheed. Learn about the oneness of Allah. Learn about the Salah. Learn about the pillars. Then try and learn Arabic. Try and learn the Quran. Because you're going to feel more confident in your faith. You're going to feel more confident, reciting the Quran, saying some Arabic phrases. Feel more confident in maybe trying to read the Quran. It's going to help you grow in your faith. And then I think, again, try and focus on the spirituality, which you're going to learn from those basics of the 5 pillars. Learn why you're doing, what do they mean. And then with friends and family, try and respond in good manners. Try and be kind. Try and be charitable. And they're going to see that change, and it's going to affect them. So that's the advice I would give, and some of the lessons I took away when I became Muslim, and some of the changes that I went through. So that's some of the advices I would give, and some of the books I mentioned there. Essential Lessons for Every Muslim, The Fundamentals of Tawheed by Bilal Phillips. And this book as well, Usul al-Hadith by Bilal Phillips is a beneficial read as well. But inshallah, that's going to be today's show. Hopefully you've benefited, brothers and sisters. If you do have any questions, you can post them in the comments. You can message me directly in the comments on Fast FM or even on Facebook yourself. Tomorrow, we're going to be joined by Brother Imran Hussein from iERA. Inshallah, we're going to have a guest on. We're going to have a discussion about da'wah and different topics, atheism, maybe talk about new Muslim support. We're going to talk about a few different topics. So hopefully, if you're available, tune in tomorrow, 6 to 7 p.m. with myself and Imran Hussein. And on Thursday, we're going to be joined by Alex, who is a convert brother, who is a senior brother. He's over 60, and he's going to be sharing, some of his story, some of his journey with us. And it's going to be interview style, an opportunity for you guys as well. If you want to ask questions, you can ask them to Brother Alex about his journey, and I'll probably share some things about my journey as well. So that's going to be on Thursday, and then on this Friday is going to be a show with myself and my wife. So do stay tuned for that. From Darkness to Light, 6 to 7 p.m. with myself, Richard Coupland. I want to thank you all for listening. Jazakallah khair. You've been listening to Newcastle Fast FM. Do stay tuned for other shows that are coming up after this and throughout the day. And inshallah, I will catch you all tomorrow. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.